Guys, welcome back to the teaching channel. Today we are going to talk about how to chip around the greens. So the first point I want to talk about in today's video, we're going to have 3 points total on how to chip around the green. The first one here is club selection. So I have all my wedges. I have a 56 degree, a 50, and a 60. We're going to be going to this red pin here. So to this red pin, we have a lot of green to work with. I'm noticing one thing. I do look at grain in Florida here. If it's dark, that means you're into the grain. It's going to check up more. If you're light, if it's a light green color, that means it's down grain, so it's going to roll out a little more. This one is a little bit on the light side. It's not super dark. It should roll out. For me, I usually take a 60 or a 56 around the green, but for a lot of good players out there, they take a super low lofted club and they bring it in low. To this red pin here, the smartest play for every golfer out there watching this video, I would say, is about a 50 degree. If I were to hit this shot here, I think a 50 degree is the perfect loft because it's going to get it on the green the fastest, which is then going to roll out to the pin. Versus if you take a 60 degree, you're going to have to carry it to the pin and count on some spin. So if I were to hit this shot here, I can land it just on the green and it should roll all the way out, should come in nice and low, should roll out to the pin. And that was perfectly pin high. So this is a 50 degree all day. I'm bringing it in low, getting it on the green quick, versus if I were to take a 60 degree, I would have to fly it closer to the pin and hope there's some spin. It's a riskier shot. The 50 degree gets it on the ground quick and it's gonna roll out. So I'm gonna bring this in as low as I can. That was perfect. Okay. So that is a perfect example for point number one, club selection, where you would take a 50 degree. Now let's go to where I would take a 60 degree. I don't have as much green to work with. I still barely want to land this on the green with my 60, but this is going to roll out. I'm going to need more loft to land it softer. Let's take our 60 degree here. You're just going to want to get this on the green, have soft hands, and it's going to release. I could not hit a 50 from here. It would go way too far. I wouldn't have enough spin. We want this to come out high and soft. Little tiny chip shot, but just get it on the green. Even that released a lot. I could even open this face up a little more here. That released a ton, but we're just trying to get this on the green. This is a prime 60 degree. That's a very difficult shot. You could even have a 64 in the bag. That's a 60 degree location, not much green to work with. You need to get it to stop quick. The first location was a lot more green to work with. You could take your 50 degree, chase it up there, bring it in low. The main point with club selection is look how much green you have to work with. If you don't have much green to work with, take a 60 degree, try and put a little more spin on it. Make sure it comes out a little bit softer. If you have a lot of green to work with, get it on the green quick, get it low. If you can, putt it even. The 50 degree gets it on low, it rolls out. It's a more consistent shot, more reliable than a 60 degree from that first location. Point number one, club selection. We talked about club selection. Now we are moving on to the landing spot, picking a landing spot. For the first chip here, we're gonna go back, we're gonna hit the chips I just hit, but we're gonna talk about where to land this ball. The most important thing when you're chipping is to look at a spot that you are trying to land the ball, and then it's gonna roll out from there. So, first spot here, I have a lot of green to work with, like we already talked about. I'm gonna now pick out a spot that I am trying to land this chip. A lot of people don't talk about this. You need to pick out a landing spot. Should break a little right to left. I'm gonna try and land this ball somewhere up in here, and it should release to the pin. Somewhere up in there, I'm gonna pick out a spot. Now I'm gonna come back here, go through my routine, and try and land it on that spot that I picked out up there. Should break a little right to left. So it should come out nice and low and release to the pin. Perfect, hit my spot basically. And that's perfectly pin high. So we picked the right club and we judged the distance and the spin. Let's hit one more shot there. Let's try and hit it on that landing spot. 50 degree, it's gonna come out nice and low. A lot of people take their 60 degree from here, and that's where I see a lot of amateurs going wrong. They take too much loft and they try and fly it all the way there. Take the lower lofted club and make sure you can use the green to your advantage. Take a 50 degree, once again, here we go. Just barely get it on the green. That was perfect. It's gonna go in the hole. Oh, oh man. They will never leave me alone, those lip outs. Even when I'm trying to chip, you know, it's that bad. But those were two perfect shots, and I hit my landing zone almost on the head both times. I almost landed it perfectly on my landing zone. If you can do that every time and you can judge the distance, you're gonna become a great chipper. I need to also reiterate on this. These things take practice. So you're gonna need to come out here, chip on your own. You're not just gonna overnight be a great chipper. You have to come out, pick out spots, feel it in your hands where you wanna land it. Because when I pick out that spot, I still have to know how far I'm taking this club back to achieve that distance. So we got our 50 degree, let's try it one more time. Just a hair long of my spot, but it's still gonna work out, and oh my gosh. Those are back-to-back lip outs. Like, what the heck? All right, well, there's two back-to-back lip outs. I would say we got our landing zone. I would say we got our club really dialed in there. Now let's move on to a 60 degree. It's funny, I'm actually kind of coaching myself right now as we go along because I need a refresher on these things as well. When I'm playing out on the course, I forget sometimes to pick out a landing spot and I just get up there and whack it, but this helps a lot. So moving on to a 60. So we hit the 50. We're on point number 2. We've talked about club selection. We are now on to landing zone, picking a landing zone or a landing spot, whatever you want to call it, with a 60 degree. Now this is a very tricky shot. The green is running away from me. Only want to barely get this on the green because I'm thinking in my head, if I land this 60 degree right here, it's going to release to the pin and it's going to have enough time to spin and land soft, just trying to get it past the fringe. Barely, just got it past it. Really solid golf shot. Once again, this is a very difficult shot. So if that landing zone isn't the right one or that spot, now I might need to pick a different spot to land it. So maybe the actual correct landing spot is more on the fringe here. So maybe I need to land it right here on the fringe. Let's see, let's try that. That could be right. I could have misjudged it. Let's land it on the fringe here. Perfect. That killed a little bit of it. Okay. Still, that kind of rolled out to that same distance of the first one. Very solid golf shots. I would not be mad with those, but let's even try and get it closer. So now we're even gonna get crazier. We're gonna try and pick out a spot right in here where I wanna land this. So I'm gonna say right in here. So just past the rough. We want that fringe to kill the speed of this golf ball. We want it to slow down by the time it gets to the pin so we have a tap and putt. Just landed it on, there we go. There we go. That's it. So my landing zone for this chip is actually in this area. So I was completely wrong. If I landed on here, it's not gonna have enough time to spin. It's gonna come out too hot. My landing zone for this 60 degree was right here. So I picked out a correct landing zone. Now let's move on to the final one. We are now gonna talk about technique, which we have already touched on in a previous video, but we're gonna touch on it again because it's the most important part when chipping. If you don't have the correct technique, you're not hitting the ball solid when you're chipping, the rest of this doesn't work. On to the final point, how to chip around the green. We're gonna talk about technique when you're chipping. We're gonna come back to our original shot here, the 50 degree. When I get over the ball, first thing I really think about when I'm chipping is where my weight's at. My weight is gonna be about 70% on my left side, so 30% is on my right. 70% of my weight is on my left. So I'm staying on my left and I'm anchoring around that. I don't wanna be swaying when I'm chipping. I see a lot of people when they chip, they go like this, and they scoop it. My weight is staying on my left side. It does not move from there. That is number one. Number two, ball position. I like my ball position basically in the middle of my stance, sometimes a little bit back because I want to clip that ball first. And the last point is how far the shaft is ahead. So we talked about weight, ball position, and now I don't want my hands super far ahead, but I also don't want them behind. I like to have it straight up and down vertical of the shaft. So that should deliver the intended amount of loft with the club. Because when you move the handle this way, you de-loft. When you move the handle this way, you add loft. Weight on my left side, ball position in the center, shaft vertical. And now I look at my landing zone, I have the correct club, and we go from there. Missed my landing zone, carried it a little too far. Contact was great. Technique was good, just too big of a backswing. So length of the backswing was off there. So let's go over all 3 bullet points here into one shot on how to chip around the green. So starting with bullet point number 1, club selection. I'm gonna take a 50 degree. Bullet point number 2, my landing zone. We talked about that. just on the green, slightly right of the hole, because it's gonna break left. And now technique. Weight left, ball position in the center of my stance, and shaft up and down. Not ahead, not behind, up and down. Now let's hit it right on that landing spot. Little past it, still a really good shot there. Just a hair long of the pin, missed my landing zone by a little bit, carried it too far. So once again, backswing was maybe a little bit too long. But guys, hopefully that helps you with your chipping. When you get out on the golf course, there's a lot of things going on. Just simplify it. Pick the right club, pick where you want to land it, and focus on that technique. And hopefully that lowers your score. Also guys, huge shout out to Arccos for being a sponsor of the teaching channel. If you guys want to get Arccos, go in the description, click the link, and you guys can get set up with Arccos on all your golf clubs. They've been wonderful for the teaching channel. I've been using it. So shout out to Arccos for being a sponsor of the channel. Also guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you go subscribe. Click the little notification bell to get notified when new videos come out. And let me know, did this video help you? Because I want you guys to go out to the course next time, and when you get a wedge in your hand or you're chipping around the green, I want you to feel a lot of confidence on what club to take, where to land it, and how to do it. Peace.